Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this wonderfully warm Tuesday. Looking at what happened yesterday, a lot of you found it was too hot for still talking to us during the day, but I noticed that nearly 600 of you last night came in afterwards, after 7 o'clock at night, and downloaded today. So if it's now 7 o'clock your time at night instead of 3 o'clock, it's still good to see you. Thank you for coming along. And you will be seeing that, in fact, my guest today is our old friend Kevin from FreeAgent. Hello, Kevin.
Hi, good afternoon, Gary. I should say in Scotland we're always a good 5, 6, 7, 10 degrees colder, so it's definitely not warm up here.
Oh, right, okay. Well, it's always nice up there, though, so that's the best thing. I love coming up to Scotland. I mean, we did Inverness last year. You were unable to make it, so you actually did the first virtual presentation that we've ever done. So I don't know whether this was, you with a crystal ball somewhere in there and you were preparing yourself or what this was, but yeah. So that went well.
I missed my flight, or my flight was cancelled because of the weather. And yeah, I think like you say, technology meant that I could at least try and deliver something, and we got through it. So
no, it was very memorable. It was pretty nice. The first time I think I've stopped over there like that. But we Agatha, who was running it, and I was there, and we were rushing off. So we got as far as the station, got there a bit early, went for a walk around the town, sat and had a cup of coffee, and missed the train. So we had to wait for the next one, which I think was about 2 hours away. So, but anyway, we digested it. You're going to talk to us today about open banking. So I think probably just to make sure we've got everybody on cue, you better tell us what that actually means, and then perhaps tell us what it's all going to mean to the life of a bookkeeper.
Yeah, well, open banking is not really a new thing. It certainly is in the UK, but it's certainly been a mindset or a theory, methodology, if you want, in the rest of the world. Australia, New Zealand, Brazil, mostly Europe, India, have had some form of open banking technology in place for a while, and the UK was kind of one of the last big nations to adopt it. What open banking really is a secure way to give providers access to your financial information, Gary, to be honest. So it was set up by the CMA, who are the Competition and Markets Authority, and really what they wanted to create was more competition in the financial marketplace. So that they recognised that the big banks were quite controlling, quite dominating the market, perhaps not offering the best features out there. So they created open banking legislation to try and open things up a little bit, create some more interesting products and more companies that can help small businesses and individuals and everyone really. So it's not a new thing, but it's really gained some traction, I would say, in the last 18 months or so in the UK.
Yeah, we've had quite a lot to do with a number of them. Revolut is one that we work quite closely with. Total, Sterling, Starling. Yeah, there are a few of them out there at the moment. So, what are they bringing to the market though? What is it that makes it so different? Why was the market opened up? Obviously to get better access, but why did everybody think the banks weren't doing a good job and they needed a shake?
I think. I suppose I can come from quite a biased situation that I used to work for a big bank, and certainly during the banking crisis 10, 15 years ago, the reputation of the banks from a service point of view was pretty terrible, especially for small businesses, small business owners. They didn't really get good customer service. Bigger banks tend to be on legacy sort of technology, so getting information from them was very difficult. Phoning a contact centre or going to the branch was not really how people operated anymore. Yet the ability to just open up an app and see all your finances and make payments at a touch of a button seemed to be where things were going. Now, because the bigger banks had legacy issues in their technology, you just look at the issues TSB and Lloyds have had, for example, they couldn't move as quick, and these challenger banks, Revolut, Monzo, Tide, Starling, like you say, they could move quite quickly, and they did so, and they really gave a level of service that the consumer was after. They could open bank accounts within minutes. They could have their debit card on their Apple phone and use Apple Pay right away. They could transfer money at the click of a button. So really, they were responding to consumer demands, I would think, but they were able to do it much quicker and easier than the bigger guys.
So the big guys, do you think, are going to come up with their own version? Are we going to see NatWest Lite or something like this? Or
well, NatWest have already done that with Metal Bank that they launched recently, and we've got a very unique partnership with Metal Bank. If you open a Metal business bank account, you get FreeAgent completely free, and it's fully set up individually. So yeah, I think NatWest in particular saw the need for this and saw their own limitations there, so they launched Metal Bank, for example. I would say so. I think if you look at the trend and the uptakes of challenger banks, I think 1 in 4 millennials use them on a personal level. Starling Bank, I think in 2019 won Best Bank in the UK for small businesses. So they're certainly feeling threatened, and you know, NatWest certainly acted accordingly by starting Metal, like I say, and are putting quite a lot of energy into that digital side of their offering.
So NatWest is obviously RBS in your neck of the woods.
Yeah, RBS up in Scotland, but I think the new chief executive or CEO, she decided to change the group name back to NatWest. So RBS and NatWest, Ulster Bank in Northern Ireland, of course.
Yeah.
I think you won't be hearing RBS or Royal Bank of Scotland group that often anymore, specifically down in England. We'll still have RBS branches here, but she changed the name. Alison Rose, she changed the name. One of the first things that she done, to be honest, Garry, she changed it back to NatWest Group.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, we're here today that EasyJet have been hacked. They've lost a lot of names, some credit card details, but millions of names and addresses, etc. Do you think that a challenger bank, because it's cloud-based, because it's easy to get to, etc., are they more volatile? Are they more vulnerable?
No, I wouldn't say so. I think, you know, they still have to conform to banking regulations and meet appropriate, you know, security tests that are there. So I wouldn't say so, Garry, to be honest. You know, I've certainly used a challenger bank and actually moved from my standard bank to a challenger bank for all my banking, and I don't tend to be too worried about that kind of stuff. But no, I wouldn't say so. They still have to conform to the same regulations. They still need to get themselves a bank license to be able to do what they need to do. So you know, you hope part of that is the need to make sure that they're secure and the data is safe ultimately.
Okay. So when you've got a challenger bank, one of the big things is you've got 10 members of staff. You can almost set them up immediately with an online debit card, so that go and purchase something. You can alter their credit limits almost second by second if you need to, etc. How does that then feed into your software? How does that click in seamlessly?
Yeah, I think that's going to be the new sort of way of working, and open banking allows that, is the convergence of banking data into software data, and the open banking technology allows that to work much better. So I'll just use Metal as an example. A Metal real-time bank feed exists as soon as a purchase is made on Metal. It goes into FreeAgent. If you add employees and they've got debit cards, again, we're aware of that. Essentially, it's giving real-time data from the bank into the software. But over time, it's going to start going the other way. So you'll be able to make in-app payments on FreeAgent, for example, rather than logging into your internet bank account and making the payments that way. If you have credit limits, like you've just said, something that we're doing, which is probably a help that we're owned by NatWest, is something called pre-authorized limits. The bank basically looks at the data that's in FreeAgent. It looks at the cash flow, looks at outstanding invoices and any tax or VAT liabilities, and they can pre-authorize lending facilities or lending limits per employee. So it's going to start talking to each other rather than just one way, to be honest. And when I say start talking to each other, we're actually already doing it. So again, that's quite exciting. And again, it's all because of this open banking technology that we can do that.
So as far as we as an institute is concerned, I mean, the way that we have to train our new students into being bookkeepers is changing daily. The old bank rec, you still got to teach them how to do a bank rec because some will still do them, but the direct bank feeds are something which are increasingly more prevalent, and so they've got to know that as well. And it's keeping up with it all, really, because direct bank feeds are, that's exactly what we want. It's on the dot, on the minute, absolutely up to date, but it's a different skill. And so, it's changing things. I mean, how do we as, I'll ask you to confirm how I run for the next decade. How do we as an institute keep up with all this? Because it's just changing so quickly.
I think, we were talking off the air there, and the one thing that I've always found with yourself and your members and the ICB in particular is you really, really value your clients and in turn their businesses, and you really, really want to help, and that's exactly what we were talking about the coronavirus and how it's all it's done is just enhanced the need for bookkeepers and the true advice and the hand holding that they can give. I genuinely believe that the coronavirus is actually the genesis of open banking in bookkeeping. So rather than like you say, the bank rec or I'm going to say wasting time chasing bank statements, they can really concentrate on what their passion is, really, really giving quality advice to their clients about lending, about tax, about the future of their business, about where they want to go, their personal plans, that kind of thing. So I would say it's, yes, the theory behind what is a bank rec and why it's important is there, but it's more the the relationship building, the being there, the added value that bookkeepers are so good at. And don't get me wrong, I think the bookkeepers have a real self-belief and identity and the value that they can give. And I think it's just building on that, Gary, rather than, yes, we know the theory and we're experts here, but we can look beyond the numbers and we can really personalize what these numbers mean to that small business owner.
Yeah, I mean, I've always said that it's all very well having the numbers and being able to get them yourself, but if you don't know what they mean, it's almost a bit of a waste of space, and this is the thing. I think, and I've said it a couple of times over the last month, that the only people I know that went into business to look after books are bookkeepers and accountants. Everybody else went into business to run their business, and they have this task, which is a blessing and a curse, if you like, that they have to do the books. And they know, if they're clever, that the books will mean something that can help them. But I think in many small businesses, it's just a task that they've got to do. And it's up to our members to explain to them what the figures mean. But more importantly than that, what you can do with those figures. And I think once people get used to expecting figures and understanding, so if I do that, that means that, it's just like the world opens up to them. It's almost a light bulb moment.
I do remember, again, I'm going into my past here, but I used to be a commercial lending manager, and we would get, say, a 20 grand loan overdraft requests come in from a builder or a joiner, and you'd say, you know, you'd ask them for their figures and they go, yeah, but my turnover is XYZ. You know, my turnover's 100 grand, and you say, yeah, that's great, but your outgoings are 200 grand. You know, you're insolvent, and it wasn't that it was a bad company. It was just they didn't understand the numbers. Whereas actually, when you sat down with that person and you said, well, this does this and this does that, that 20 grand overdraft actually was 5 grand overdraft, and they didn't need to put that pressure on the business. So yeah, I completely agree. It's almost like enabling them to just go ahead and concentrate on their business, knowing that their finances are solid and they understand them. I think is probably the job that your members will be doing the next couple of years.
Yeah, I think also, as we've now got the technology, I'm looking forward to the day when we completely join the circle, so the businesses can see what's going out, what's coming in now, this very moment, but then work with that. So actually, if you look at the figures, I don't know whether I'm not particularly up to date with these, but at one stage, it was something like 85% of all businesses, small businesses, don't actually borrow money because they're self-financing, they look after themselves. They dread the thought of having to borrow any money. Now, whether or not that's good for the business, they don't even consider, because they oh, well, I'm not going to be beholden to a bank. I'm not going to mortgage my house against a loan, and all this sort of stuff goes into play. But the more facts and figures they've got, the more understanding they've got, will tell them if that's the best thing for their business. And you know, the possibilities with that are accelerating exponentially at the moment. I can only see it being a positive.
Yeah, I agree. You know, having money sitting in a business bank account is not necessarily the best thing to do. No. You know, if you need to borrow or not, then you know you're entirely right. You know, can you highlight that? We released a feature. We actually brought it forward for coronavirus called Radar, which is data-driven insights in FreeAgent, looking at the kind of data there is and almost giving an early warning system to our end users. Now, of course, the bookkeepers can control those insights in FreeAgent, but yeah, you're entirely right. You know, it is an education, and people don't like asking for that, and they've got predetermined ideas of what lending is or what business finances should be, whereas actually if someone with the expertise and the knowledge can say, well, hang on a minute, you should be doing this and this because I can see all of that, then I only see it as a good thing.
Yeah. But talking of information, we mere mortals can't keep up with your organisation on the amount of information you're giving out. I mean, I've just been catching up with you on Twitter. I mean, basically everything from what to eat for breakfast almost onwards, you've got a blog for it. You know, I mean, how many people have you got generating this stuff?
Do you know what? I think I don't think Ed, our CEO, is going to be happy about this, but certainly since lockdown started and people are working from home, it's amazing how productive everyone's been, that they can't meet in the kitchen and
yeah.
go for a coffee or an extended walk at lunchtime. We've got a great team at FreeAgent. I think we've received quite a lot of quality feedback about our COVID-19 content. We've got a hub for bookkeepers and a hub for clients, and yeah, to be honest, quite a lot of this stuff is evergreen. It's maybe stuff that we released 1 or 2 years ago and we update it. Our marketing and comms team are probably around about 20, 30, 40 strong. But I think one thing about FreeAgent is that we're not a huge company like Sage or QuickBooks. There's 200 of us, and do you know what? If they need to lean on me, for example, to do a webinar or a little blog post, then they will do. You don't necessarily need to be in the marketing team. We've obviously got accountants and bookkeepers in there. We lean heavily on your members, to be honest, Gary. You know, Christine Applin has re-recorded a little video for us last week, and She done a video last year as well. We've worked with Zoe as well.
Yeah, I saw the bit about the dog and the T-shirt that you've given her and all the rest.
Yeah, well, exactly. So you know, we our partners are our partners, and we're not scared to ask them to contribute as well. So no, it's great that you've noticed that stuff as well.
No, we keep an eye on everybody, obviously, and somebody called Lee Burrows tweeted, self-assessment file, free agent, you make it almost too easy. So it's good to get that feedback, isn't it?
It is. It's. Do you know what? We've got a fantastic product and some really intelligent people at FreeAgent. You know, our designers, our engineers, our developers. You know, we do all that ourselves. So that feedback is more for the guys, really. You know, they don't come out into the big bad world and talk to people like yourself or IC members and hear it face to face every so often.
Yeah.
They're the true workers at FreeAgent. So when someone tweets how good FreeAgent is or how easy it is to use, that's a huge pat on the back for them, because it's their hard work. I've got the easy job of talking about it. They've got the hard work of building it.
We've just got another one here from our Facebook people today, from Sue Haynes. Kevin Lord watched your training videos on FreeAgent last week. Very useful. So, getting good reports here.
Yeah, I think I've taken over the sort of training and education part of the practices at FreeAgent, and we've done quite a lot of research with your members as well, to be honest, and training link that you use.
Yeah.
I spoke to them at the summit last year, and watch this space, because we're going to really grow our learning hub and make it more accessible, and add more modules there to try and help people get to know the software, but also get to really get into the nooks and crannies of your workflow rather than your client's workflow. So it's an exciting time, and like I say, watch this space. I've got big plans for that section.
So one of the big things at the moment is that everybody seems to be doing everybody else's job. It's an ever-decreasing circle. I mean, you're now looking to provide, obviously, training, which is great. We welcome everybody to do training. I noticed Sage are doing the same, Intuit are doing the same. Xero have got their own online platform using their software. I mean, most of our students at one stage or another learned their trade using Sage, the old desktop. Line 50 was the bog standard training thing, and you mentioned Training Link. That's what they always used, and I think it was on the basis that, what do they call themselves, the company that taught you to learn to drive, British something or other. They always used to have a particular car, and they were almost given those cars, because then people thought, well, they'll like this car once they've learned to drive, so they'll go and buy the car afterwards. So I think Sage were probably involved for that very reason, and they're still very big, but they've got a university, but they've got a big training arm. So you've got a lot of training companies out there feeling a bit jittery, but at the same time, I mean, judging by the way that the banks and yourselves, people particularly like yourselves are going, there must be a lot of apps out there that are getting the jitters at the moment, because all of the good stuff is slowly being incorporated into what I would call core software. And my question is, do you think that's going to go the way of the software company? So is Xero or Intuit going to buy a bank? Or is it going to happen the other way, where banks are just going to buy up all the software companies?
I mean, probably speaking out of turn from FreeAgent's point of view, when RBS NatWest bought us, we were one of probably top 3, 4, 5 bookkeeping software or cloud accounting software in the UK, but we were not as big as Xero or QuickBooks. We were probably in this Goldilocks area, that we were a good size, but had a good product there. I think it depends on the software company, really, and what their attitude is. I mean, again, we were talking off air on how your members know, not being rude here, but know their place. They know they're the best kind of clients that they can look after. And I think we are the same at FreeAgent. We don't we very focused on what we call micro businesses, 10 employees or less. We're not trying to get your hotel chains or your big corporate businesses. We're not like that. So because of that, we can try and develop the functionality without needing all these other apps to plug into FreeAgent. Example being cash flow forecasting, in-app payments. We're trying to do that all under the FreeAgent bonnet and just have a hub. Whereas if you look at something like Xero or Intuit, they have 800, 1,000 apps all talking to them. So I think it's quite interesting. Being really honest, you could see a Xero bank or an Intuit bank. They tend to be big enough, I think, these kind of companies. I don't see a big bank purchasing a Xero or QuickBooks. They're too big a company, to be honest. I would see it going the other way. But certainly from FreeAgent's point of view, rather than finding all these third-party apps, we will try and build them to our own client base and try and keep them in-house, and that way we can manage it and really focus on those micro businesses rather than try and find something that fits everyone.
Yeah, it's strange because I've noticed that, recently Accounting Web came out and said that Sage had got the best HR package from the software companies. But then within 48 hours of that, Xero were promoting their new HR package, and that looks pretty good as well. And they're almost, I suppose, in many ways doing what the challenger banks are doing, but they're looking at what the market is buying, and let's say, well, look, why don't you just stay in the Xero camp or in the whichever camp you're in, because rather than you go out and nip out and perhaps see somebody else doing it better, we're going to bring it in-house, and then we've got you, and that's it. And you're signed up. You don't need to go anywhere else. It's becoming more like supermarkets than specialist shops, as it were. So.
Yeah, I can agree with that, and I think it's something, we like say with in-app payments, for example, you'll be able to do that through FreeAgent rather than a third party, and then that's no additional cost. Insurance, can you use the data in FreeAgent to give you a bespoke insurance policy? Well, yes, we're releasing that soon. Finance, we're already doing that. So yeah, it's kind of, you're kind of right that I think that's where we're going. But in terms of Xero and QuickBooks starting a bank, or buying a bank, I think that's interesting. Again, we're probably the opposite because a big bank bought us. But
I don't have any insider knowledge, by the way. This is just pure speculation. But anyway, yeah, I wish I had. I'd take some shares out for somebody. But yeah, because last night my wife and I were watching Netflix, and we wanted to buy a film, and you just say, yes, I want to buy it. Next thing I know, my phone is pinged and I've bought it on Apple Pay. It's all merging in, isn't it? It's a bit easy, actually. It's perhaps too easy to get it. You can spend money before you know what you're doing.
I think it is, and then but I also think that we're going back. Yes, it is easy, but you still need that person there to be able to translate it for you, I think. And I'm a great believer that people, especially with money, Gary, I think when it comes to money, and people are still very aware or reluctant to do things that they might get in trouble for, or they're not quite sure about. They always tend to seek out expertise and help. Now, a movie or a book, I'll give you a prime example. I was on a webinar this morning, and the guy recommended a book, and I went on to Amazon to buy it, and I found out that I bought it 18 months ago, and I've not opened it. So that was just a material thing that I'd done, but I was going to do it again. Whereas, would I do that with a loan or a mortgage or a tax return? I would know about that, or I would at least have someone pointing me in the right direction. So I think it is becoming easy, but I would say the easy thing is the visualization of the data. They get access to it now, and they can look at it, but whether they know what it actually means is something completely different, I think.
Yeah, I think also software is really getting quite clever. I mean, we had Caroline Plum on just talking about cash flow, and saying that the benefit that her software program has over others at the moment is that instead of, if you're using Excel and you're doing a cash flow projection, you have to put all the figures in. Well, hers just downloads. Fantastic. But more than that, the bit that I liked was it said that it then looks back at your individual clients and says, this person normally pays on 32 days. And that automatically builds into your cash flow projection. So you're not getting this idealistic 30-day payment or going over the top and making it 90-day. It actually gives you past payment history. So you've got a real plan there, which has got to be great. And it's only really software that can do that, or somebody sitting there spending hours and hours and hours working it out with a calculator. It's incredible, really.
Yeah, and that's the data that's in FreeAgent as well. We know your invoice history, we know the late payers, and we are building our cash flow projections on that as well. Now, actually, because of our relationship with the big bank, we can actually take that a step further and say, actually, we've sent Garry an invoice. Gary's traditionally a late payer. Do you want invoice financing for that invoice at this amount? Or actually, we know your tax liability. We know that you've got 6 invoices out. Your cash flow is going to be short. You have a pre-authorized limit at the bank to cover your cash flow in the next 3, 6, 9 months. Do you want that right now? And you can get it within minutes. So that's what open banking technology allows us to do at FreeAgent, and probably why we've got a unique approach to it, because we're owned by the bank. So yeah, I think Fluidly is brilliant and fantastic for the businesses that's focused on. Again, we're just that lucky that we can almost take it a step further and go, yep, we recognise your cash flow, it's a little bit short, here's some finance or credit to cover that.
Yeah, because I'm running out of names to drop here, so I'm trying not to. I'm trying to get everybody included. But anyway, one of the banks was talking, or software companies was talking about giving you the facility because you have regular amounts going through. They'd advance you money against some of your invoices automatically. It would just be there, So there's none of us going to the bank, signing away the house and everything else, and they'd work it on your past payment history. And yeah, I can see a lot of that coming about now, and it just makes sense, it's the old algorithm. You can prove so much with that. As you say, I mean, the sort of big speakers that we have had at our conference have always said, it's all very well, but at the moment, certainly, it really needs a person just ticking the boxes and making sure it's okay, because a computer makes up its own mind what it's really doing. It works on, well, you've always done this, so yeah, that's okay. So if you did it wrong at the beginning, it will presume it's right, and it will mirror that through. And I think you've got to have somebody there that understands it. And to be honest with you, I think that's why bookkeepers are winning out very much with this new technology, because they're actually there on the ground. They're not sat somewhere in an office that you send your accounts over at the end of your 12 months and say, do my year end for me. We're far more involved. And, it means that we know what's going on in a business because we know that business almost inside out. It's almost like being a full-time employee with that business, even if we're only popping in once a month, because we know everything that goes through. And I think our members are in a really good position to make a name for themselves, if nothing else. It's almost came right back to where we started this. Bookkeepers are making themselves more relevant at the moment rather than fading into the background.
Yeah, and again, I'll go back to a sort of statement that I said when we were offline. I think this crisis that we're in just now has just really highlighted the need for that small business owner to really know what's going on in their business, and who best to turn to is the person that knows every line of the invoice, every line of the bank rec. You're quite right about if it's wrong at the start, it's wrong in the middle, and it's wrong at the end. That moving on to software is actually incredibly challenging, and you have to do it at the right time. If you have opening credits or trade debtors or trade debtors, and you don't input them correctly into FreeAgent, Zero, or whatever, it takes a very trained person to get that back on track. A bit like the open bank feed, and you're only as good as the machine. I use a mobile phone bill all the time as an example. If you pay £50 mobile phone bill every month and you tell the machine it's your £50 towards mobile phone, the machine's just going to explain that as a mobile phone bill. But actually, if £40 is your mobile phone bill and £10 is insurance, they're both got different VAT rates.
Yeah.
Therefore, you need someone that's got that knowledge of the different VAT rates, or what's VATable, what's not, what's in scope, what's not, because left to its own devices, it'll just do the wrong thing. And if that's a monthly bill all the time, by the time 12 months, 18 months later, that's a lot of mistakes that have been made. So I think you always need someone that knows the theory behind it and knows the double checking, but also knows the business and the right thing to do. I use that mobile phone example quite often because it's just easy to say £50, that's EE, brilliant. But actually £40 is EE, £10 insurance. They're both VATable at different rates. So you're incorrect. So yeah, I completely agree with you. It needs a human touch, and it needs an experienced, knowledgeable one as well.
I remember years ago, and I used this probably a couple of years back in our Inspire tour, that I was asked to do a talk to the Federation of Small Business up in the West Midlands, and I was talking to this group of business people ranging from big to small to minute. And I remember this one guy saying, oh, well, I don't pay tax. I don't earn enough to pay tax. I said, oh, why? He said, well, by the time I've taken my costs, I haven't got anything left to pay tax on. Right? Well, what do you live on? He said, oh, well, I just withdraw money as I need it. And I said, but that's salary. No, he says, I couldn't live without that. And I sort of, the penny dropped and he suddenly went pale, but he hadn't declared any salary because he classed his salary as a cost of business. And, that's an earning. Oh, but I'm anyway, he got very confused. And we put him in touch with a bookkeeper who went to HMRC, very much with his cap in their hand, and said, look, this is what's gone wrong. So anyway,
my cousin started a recruitment company, and he used FreeAgent, and he was just like, how do I not pay any tax? I was just like, well, you need to pay tax, and so does the business, but what salary are you taking? Oh, I'm exactly the same. I'm taking it out the business. Like, well, that's not how real life works. And you said it at the start, just because a plumber or a dog walker, a beautician or whatever that is, just because they could be the best beautician in the world, doesn't mean that they need to understand finances, and doesn't mean they should either. They should seek out the best advice that they can, and it's sad that some people don't take that and then find themselves in a bit of trouble. But the values there, and like I said to you, I think this crisis is really not that your members really had to, but the value of having a solid bookkeeper behind you is really showing. Us at FreeAgent, we're the busiest that we've probably been at the minute, and you said the same earlier, and there's a reason for that, and the reason that you guys are busy and that you're taking more clients on are the fantastic value that you can give, and long may that continue.
Well, I must stress here, I haven't paid you to say all these nice things about it. In fact, the opposite. You are one of our major sponsors, so thank you very much for that. Obviously, it's good to have your involvement, but even better, as well to have a bit of sponsorship behind it, which is great. I know you've got some webinars coming up, various things this year, so we'll look out for that. I've actually got quite a few questions coming on here through my email attachment here. If I can just go to those. This is David T. I don't know who he is, but hello, David. Most software vendors are now using the actual live accountant or bookkeeper in their ad campaigns. How does this help?
Can you say that second bit again? Sorry.
They're actually using real life bookkeepers rather than the old posed young girl in an office typing at a computer. You're using, I'm not sure if this is you who he's referring to, but actual bookkeepers and accountants to say, how good things are and how good you are as part of advertising?
I mean, we certainly lean on our partners to talk about what it's like working with FreeAgent and the benefits that they can have with our software. I think ultimately we're a tool. We're not a service. We're the tool that bookkeepers can use to enhance their services. It's about you mentioned it with open banking. Can they get data quicker? Yes. Can they really dial into the numbers more efficiently and more robustly? Yes. And then it's up to them to translate that into language that their clients understand. So yeah, I mean, we use your members to talk about how they like using us. So I will be brutally honest. When I first joined FreeAgent, I really 6 years ago now, I thought that, I'm not going to say our policy because it wasn't, but it felt like the software's attitude was to get rid of bookkeepers and accountants. I think it's came full circle now, to be honest, and it's actually, we need the skills of that human, that expertise to, at the end of the day, we're a glorified spreadsheet. That's all we are, really. We're just a faster, better spreadsheet. We still need someone to interpret the numbers.
You're obviously pretty keyed into your marketing. Following on from that question, this is my question, not David's, but do you find there's a real difference between the response you get from a digital type publication with lots of pretty little weird people, as opposed to somebody where you've got a member's face or even a member talking? Is it tangible, or is it, do you not take it down that far?
Personally, I always think that having a member talking speaks to that body. So they know the name, they're trusted. It's one of their peers. Sometimes it's someone that they want to look up to. So I definitely think that from a marketing point of view, from a storytelling point of view, people buy off other people, and if they can relate to that person, then it's much easier. So for example, if we do anything with you guys, we'll always push for one of your members to either be a guest on the webinar or be a guest writer in the blog or be on the video, because they've got the respect of the peers, and they've got the confidence that these are the people that do well and look up to it. One thing that you guys are always share best practices. So I think it was day 2 of the summit last year was just solely on your members giving their stories and good practices, and that's something that you rely on. You don't really preach to your members. So that's one strong thing from the ICB point of view, that your members believe each other and they work with each other. I can't say that true with a couple of other bodies, sadly. They do stand on their pulpit and preach.
And long may that continue.
But yeah, I think from me personally, if I was going to do anything and it was specific to ICB, I would want an ICB member to make me look good. Oh yes, obviously, but it's just nice to get the message on, and I kind of want to say that to your members as well. If they're marketing their own business, then use one of their own clients. Don't be scared to ask their clients for referral or to write a nice review or star in a little video, because they've got the real relationship with you, not some random person or some random thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's something we tell them all the time. And also use yourself, because at the end of the day, the thing they're buying is you. Because, and I've said this so many times, the unique thing about your business is actually you. So if you're going to be, if you've got that appeal, people will buy. If they don't like you on your video, then okay, but you're going to waste your time with them anyway. They're going to waste, they're going to want to see you, they're going to get to see you, they're not going to like whatever, but they will take to you. I've got another one here from Michelle, who calls herself a liverbird. So those of you who are, I mean, obviously, Kevin, you're too young to remember this, but liverbirds are the bit of girls from Liverpool. all software vendors now seem to be more personable, gifts, etc., sent to customers. Do you think this is due to younger founders? Or younger marketing departments, or what?
I think again, this is something that I've been involved in at FreeAgent a little bit over the years, is our partner program and benefits and incentives. And actually, like, I'm kind of going against my own sort of stereotype here, but yes, I'm a golfer and I like playing golf, but gone are the days that you could have a corporate golf event and just reward the major partners in a big firm to go. So I think it's caused a lot of our partners, especially. I can only really talk about FreeAgent, but there's more sole practitioners, there's more women, they're more younger. Certainly in FreeAgent, yes, we are, you could say, a younger company with younger people calling the shots. So yeah, I just think tastes have changed, even from a brand awareness or a reputation. Do we want to be seen taking big groups of older gentlemen to a whiskey club and not keeping an eye on the people actually doing the hard work below them? Probably not. But actually, can we send them a little mug or a Bluetooth speaker or some chocolates or a pizza for the staff? I think that gets more value than the big one-off ridiculous things. So it is more personable. I also think it's technology as well. It's so easy to source this kind of stuff now. You just go online and you can order branded Bluetooth speakers, for example. We ordered 1,000 branded Bluetooth speakers just before Christmas there. Rewind 5, 6, 7 years, your ability to find someone to engrave a Bluetooth speaker would have been impossible. So I think it's a bit of both, but I will tell Ed, Rowan and Ollie that you called them young. They would like it.
Actually, I've got one here from Anonymous who says, with young founders who sell up, does this impact the company?
With young, say that again, sorry?
You young people are going to make a fortune and run off and leave the company. Does that mean that the company is just not going to be the same without you? Because companies are very personal, aren't they?
Yeah, so really interestingly, I was interviewed for FreeAgent last week about our culture. We want to kind of make sure that our culture stays the way it is. And it was actually at the ICB summit. Ed Molyneux, our co-founder, was at the summit, and we were sitting. Yeah, we were sitting, just having a beer, and I was saying to Ed, look how many people have joined FreeAgent and have actually, I think we call them we agents that have babies, and you'll see my FreeAgent hoodie. You'll see my FreeAgent hoodie behind me now. When my son was born, FreeAgent sends you a hoodie that says we agent rather than FreeAgent, and there's a number on it. So my son is number 43, and I think we're up at 65 now. So the people that join FreeAgent tend to stay there. Our employee number 1 is still here. Employee number 7, employee 10. This is the longest I've ever stayed at one company, 6 years. So I think they build a culture of being involved in everything, making sure that your voice is heard, challenging, that it makes you not want to leave, and that you're very proud of well, certainly FreeAgent. I'm very proud at working at FreeAgent, and I will sell them and talk about them to anyone that will listen. So yeah, I do understand where you're coming from, but I think the guys work so hard at building a culture and a family that business is almost second to them. I know that doesn't really sound productive, but that's certainly my experience at FreeAgent. We're a family rather than a business. I think Ed, Rowan and Ollie have built the business they always wanted to work for, rather than the one that they thought would make them a lot of money.
Yeah, I remember talking to Rod Drury at SierraCon, and he was always great for a chat. He always, I was really impressed because he always remembered my name. I don't know whether somebody was standing behind him and said, "That's Garry Carter," or who it was. It didn't matter. I was thoroughly impressed. And he was just saying, "Yeah, I'm off with my motorbikes. I'm off doing this, that, and the other. And I'm having some fun." And he seemed to be very genuine about it. I mean, Zero doesn't seem to be any different. It's just continuing and continuing. It's not as if that made a difference. Gary Turner, different in the UK. I mean, Gary's been to every single conference we've had so far. He's been a speaker to everyone. I'm dreading the day that he disappears because I really enjoy listening to him. He's got a nice way of doing things. But I presume, there'll be somebody in his way. I always remember being told that if you put your hand in a bucket of water, if you pull your hand out quickly, you're as good as the hole that's left, basically. So it's a horrible way to go, isn't it? And here's me saying this when I'm getting close to retirement, but never mind. Funnily enough, I was on a thought leader webinar a little while ago, worldwide thing, and ICB was described as a challenger institute. So I quite like that. I think challenger's got good connotations in that. Now I noticed this week you're sponsoring Newcastle's Startup Week.
Yep. Yeah.
I think startups is a big market. We went to the business show a little while back, and we didn't exactly have a product for them. They needed to be in business for a little while before they realised how difficult it is to do your books. And then we'll move in there. But when I mentioned earlier on that last year we increased our our members increased the number of clients by over 10,000. Over 9,500 of those were actually already had a piece of software. So it wasn't that they were doing it on the back of an envelope and therefore they needed to move forward. They'd already taken that first step. But then I think probably got over the fun of, this is fun, I can take a picture, I can do this, that, and the other. But then they got just as bored with it as they were when they were sitting up on Friday night with a spreadsheet, So I think that's interesting. But you get a lot of feedback from small business?
Yeah, like I say, small business is definitely our focused market. We don't try, we actively turn business away to say, your kind of business will not fit FreeAgent. So that micro business is definitely. We used to say 6 employees. I think we've put it to 10, but 6 employees or less is really where we're going. With startups especially, I think again. Ed, Ron, and Ollie, our co-founders, the foundation of FreeAgent, they were small business owners themselves, and they were just annoyed that their accountant couldn't tell them how much tax they were due. So we've been designed for people who don't have any accounting knowledge or they don't understand the language. So even the language in FreeAgent, we use money in, money out. We don't use credit, debit. So we make it really easy for these small businesses to understand. In terms of startups, a really good partnering with Metal Bank. They're focused on startups as well. They can have a free business account set up within half an hour and a free FreeAgent license right there for startups. There's no cost there at all for them, which is great. Again, going back to your point that you made earlier, I'm not surprised that those 9,500 are established businesses because, like we said, it's exciting. Let's sign up to FreeAgent and take photographs and blah, blah, blah. But they've not put in their old trade creditors or trade debtors. They've not put in their fixed assets. They've not put in any of their liabilities that they've already had. They've not put in their corporation tax. So when they go to submit the tax return, they go, oh my God, this is wrong. Or so that they then need that help in hand. So I think that's a nice little spot there. And certainly something that we found in most people that hit our partner directory are actually users of FreeAgent. They usually about 3 to 6 months later, they start looking for help, is what we found. So although we do have people coming to us directly and signing up, way over 60-70% of our users actually have a bookkeeper or accountant. So I agree with that. They like the excitement of starting up, but all of a sudden they need help.
I've got one here from Ian who says, how easy to move from another provider, QuickBooks or Xero, to FreeAgent?
Truthful answer is it's not easy, but I would also stress that it's not easy to move from us to Xero or QuickBooks. Now they do have external parties that help you do that. Again, going back to when to join FreeAgent or when to start, my recommendation and our support team's recommendation is end of a VAT quarter or end of a financial year. You usually have that line in the sand. You'll have a trial balance that you can input into FreeAgent and then start from there. So we are talking to a company called MMC at the minute that will move historic information from one software to another. Personally, I think you just need to wait to the end of a VAT quarter or end of a tax year or financial year. You'll have a trial balance. You'll have that static information. You can then input that into FreeAgent and set up an open bank feed, and then you'll be good to go.
No. I've got here, great interview, great culture, nice people attract nice people. FreeAgent are great for ICB. It's a good partnership. And our team have just said we really appreciate Kevin. So you're going down well with our team, Team ICB. Not quite as big as your 200. I dream of a team of 200, but.
Well, it's I don't know if you do, because like I say, I'm coming up 6 years. I'm employee number 56, I think.
Yeah.
And at the Christmas night out last year, we always invite couples. You're allowed to bring your spouse or your partner. And at the Christmas night out, I was walking about not knowing if people were FreeAgent employees or partners. We've grown so much and so quickly, but the culture that we have at FreeAgent, we really try really hard to make sure that everyone's included. So even though we're all online, this week, for example, it's Guess the Baby. So there's 40 baby photos of all employees. We've done yoga this morning as a company. So yeah, you know, I think culture is the main thing. People is the main thing at FreeAgent on top of helping our clients. So that's very nice to hear. I'll make sure that the team. Yeah. Personally, I'm just the figurehead of a great team below me, to be honest. So yeah.
Good. Oh, well, that's nice to know. Listen, on your baby thing, never do a beautiful baby competition. Years ago, I was ad manager advertisement manager on a publication called the Telford Journal, and we did a big competition for the best baby. And it's the first time I've seen women end up in a punch-up, because whoever we picked, we realised about halfway through publicising this, and unfortunately, after we got hundreds and hundreds of babies involved, that everybody obviously thinks their baby is the best. So whoever came up with that, it wasn't one of mine, thankfully, this one, but we got away by the skin of our teeth in the end from the Open Gates Town Hall where we were running it. So such is life. But it's great. I mean, we do have a small team, but you know, we do stuff with partners, and a lot of our former employees, because being a small organisation, we tend to get people and they come straight from uni or something like that. They cut their teeth on us and then actually move to a larger organisation. So we've got people who've gone to McKinsey, we've got people who've gone to some of the other bigger organisations, so you know, ACCA and all sorts of things. So I'm quite proud that we've got people, we've trained people good enough to be moved on to the bigger stuff.
Yeah, I think FreeAgent's in the same boat, Gary, to be honest. I'll know a guy called Bobby who'd been at FreeAgent for 9 years. He left to join Facebook in America, and Clayton, our French guy, got investment for his own technology firm for something like 70 million euros. So we're kind of in the same boat, that people only really leave FreeAgent to go on to bigger and better things. That's not to devalue FreeAgent, and the other people tend to sort of to hang about longer, and not in a bad way. It's just because they're challenged enough. I think that's important. Like I said, I'm coming up 6 years now, and I need to be challenged or I leave. I need excitement. I need motivation, and FreeAgent fills that for me. You know, the thought of doing something like this, even 2 years ago, would have filled me with dread. But I'm quite comfortable at it now, and I spoke at the summit last year, and that was an ambition of mine. So yeah, we're challenged, but it's enjoyable. It's good, but we wouldn't be there without partnerships and without our clients and partners as well. It's we can be picky and make sure people want to work with us, and that's the main thing.
Yeah, I think it's always coming up with the ideas and having then a team behind you who can cope with it. I think that's one of the things that I notice working for a small organisation is sometimes there just aren't enough people because they're all running around like headless chickens anyway. But it's probably my fault. I come up with some really weird ideas occasionally. But certainly we will hopefully keep talking to you because, I think there is a lot that we can do. We can still be non-partisan. We can promote everybody. But, there are if people work with us and we work well with them, we tend to be a little bit biased. So if I can call it that, in a nice way. So we're on the hour now. So any parting messages for our members? What is it that should make them look again if they haven't already looked at your company and what you've got to offer them?
I think FreeAgent, we're very focused on who we're good for. So you said, you're not embarrassed or you want to plug or talk about your Xeros QuickBooks. That's absolutely fine. We don't actually see ourselves in competition with them because we are so focused on the small businesses. I think one message that I would just like to portray, especially with our partnership with Metal, if you've got a small business owner, they're worried about the cost of software or the cost of banking or anything like that, get them to open a Metal account. They'll get FreeAgent completely free. We'll work with you, free training, free education, as your member said, on how to use the software. We do things at your pace, whether you've got one client or 100 or 200. So don't be afraid to talk to us. We're not a pushy company in the slightest. And let us know your plans and we can hopefully support you in them as well.
Just to get our pounds worth, what's the next big thing for the bookkeeping profession, do you think?
What's the next big thing?
Yeah.
Again, I'm going to go back to the thing that I said to you offline. I think rather than them being seen as an expense, the bookkeepers will be seen as the most important investment a small business can make.
Good. I think that's great. And if anything that you can do to help me persuade members that, they are worthwhile, because actually a lot of them they do a brilliant job, but they still won't be self-assured that they are really, really necessary. I think this lockdown and everything else has given them a lot more confidence, surprisingly, but it's something they need. They're normally, they come back to this after bringing up a family, and that's been very sexist, but that tends to be our main member, or they come after redundancy or whatever it is. And so they've had a bit of a time away, so they're coming back into a new arena. But I think it's really important that they understand they are absolutely vital to business. They're vital to their clients, and they can do whatever they want with this profession. It's brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one thing they probably underestimate is, or maybe not think about, but you don't get many professions where you know the ins and outs of a hairdresser, a haulage company, a nursery, a builder. The wealth of knowledge that your members collate and the storytelling that they must be able to do about one business and another business. They're not just an expert in bookkeeping, Gary. They're an expert in bookkeeping and this and that and all the other companies that they help. So it's such a must be a rewarding experience when they actually sit down and think, I know so much about so many businesses, not just their own. And I think that, never underestimate that experience and knowledge that you're gaining from every client. I think that's important.
Yeah. Brilliant. Well, Karin, thank you very much for coming on. And you're not missing the sun quite as much as we are, but anyway, it's good to have you back again. I look forward to working ever more closely with FreeAgent. And, as you've seen from our team, they've all got good reports. So, it means a lot if our team are happy with you and your team. If you're going to have to work with people, you might as well work with nice people. But thank you very much, everybody. So goodbye, everybody. Tomorrow we've got Steve Hardwick, Jane Hardwick coming on. First time most of you will have met Jane. And also Dave Warner. We're talking all things money laundering, but very much from a practical point of view. Jane's going to talk about what she's doing at the moment, her desk-based reviews, what she's looking for, and where some of our members are perhaps falling down on their information. And then obviously Dave's going to talk to us all about his inspections and some of the weird and wonderful excuses some of you give him when you haven't quite got all your books in order. Anyway, thank you very much. Bye, everybody. See you soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.